Ayog, Atal Tinkering Labs, ATL, Mentor Startup India, Ministry of Commerce and Industry, Government of India. He is also the co-founder of Pharma Literati, an online education initiative which is working actively in area of pharmaceutical education and have collaborated with various institutions and universities for skill-based activities. He is also a registered patent agent of the Indian Patent Office. He has completed his master's in M Pharmacy along with an LLB degree. He has 17 years of experience in pharma corporates, law firm, and consultancy. He has also conducted 100 plus IPR awareness programs at universities, colleges, bar associations, incubation centers, customs office, industry chambers, and MSMEs, that is micro small businesses. Awarded by ASSOCHAM for outstanding contribution in awareness for IPR in 2021. We are indeed honored to have such a esteemed faculty as a guest lecturer for this session. I welcome you, sir, again, and I request you to kindly grace the occasion and begin your lecture.
Thank you so much, Dr. Padmakar. Just to confirm if I'm clearly audible to everyone.
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Yeah, thank you. So a very good afternoon to everyone. I'm honored and privileged to be here for a session on lecture 2 for this impact lecture series by the IIC Institutions Innovation Council by MGM Dental College and Hospital, Navi Mumbai. I'm here to present on startups and fundamentals of intellectual property rights. Been working in the domain of intellectual property rights since long. Actually, my area of expertise has been the patents and design, and this is one area that is very much significant for the research activities that are happening at the institution level. It is very, I would say, this is a right time to speak about innovation, or I would say the intellectual property rights. If you look at the past 2 or 3 years, these 2 3 years have been really very challenging with respect to every one of us actually. But then there have been two separate things that have changed the entire startup or entrepreneurship or the innovation ecosystem within the Indian context as such. The first important thing I would say, and of course each one of you agree on that, is what we speak about is the COVID pandemic and the kind of disruptions we saw during the COVID pandemic actually, like so suddenly we were having newer challenges basically, and so there was a lot of disruption in every industry as such, including the education, the medical field, basically. So every industry got disrupted during the COVID time because of the newer, unforeseen, unpredictable challenges as well. But this also provided opportunity for a lot of innovation happening within the Indian ecosystem as such. And the reason being that we were facing newer problems or newer challenges basically. And I think the very first important thing about the innovation is these identifying these common problems or challenges. And we know that as we move ahead as a student or as a practitioner or as a researcher, we would have different kind of challenges as such, and we'll come up with I would say different solutions for that. Who had imagined actually, like किसने सोचा था कि जो हमारे टीचर्स ब्लैक बोर्ड और chalk लेके ब्लैक बोर्ड पे traditionally they have been teaching us for so long actually, but then all of a sudden one fine day and they would be starting using the technology basically. Although the entire world was kind of, I would say, under lockdown, the education sector was working, and we also saw that during this time that, like, the teachers started teaching us virtually using various platforms like Microsoft Teams, Zoom, Google Meet, and all actually. And this was all possible, or this all happened because of the challenges in the because of the COVID-19 actually. But then that has helped a lot in terms of the innovation ecosystem, especially in the medical industry. During this time, I also observed that a lot of students actually, be it from the engineering or medical side, or even arts, science, commerce students for that sake, they came up with a lot of inventions actually. And we have protected some of these inventions as well very effectively through our firm actually, while filing the patents and designs as such. One important change that happened during the COVID time was also that now we have got more of multidisciplinary research rather than the individualized isolated efforts of research actually. And that is something which is, I would say, the future as such. And so if you see the innovation ecosystem, government is promoting the innovation through various schemes or various efforts through maybe Make in India campaign, or maybe with respect to the I would say the Startup India program that the government has also got actually. So in a way, the COVID situation or the pandemic helped each one of us to understand the newer problems, and people came up with newer innovation during that point of time. One more change that happened in last 2 years, and which has been very instrumental in terms of changing the entire, I would say, entrepreneurship or startup ecosystem within Indian context, is the, I would say, a very simple entertainment program called Shark Tank India. And actually this has helped each one of us actually to understand that there is a there are bigger opportunities in terms of innovation and startup ecosystem within India. किसने सोचा था कि 20-22 साल के बच्चे would be seeking for investment for their startups or investment for their ideas basically from the biggest of the businessmen in India. And we saw it live actually on television, wherein the so-called sharks are evaluating the ideas as well as funding them as such. And it's, when we think of this Shark Tank India as a I would say program, it has really changed the landscape of entrepreneurship or startup as well. And during these programs as well, we have heard these terms like investment, or I would say something like patent, intellectual property rights, or bootstrap, the terms which were very, I would say, niche to the startup ecosystem or the incubation ecosystem, are now known to each one of us. Rather, my daughter can recognize sharks as well. She can at times mimic those sharks as well. And now each one of us know these sharks as well because of their companies, because of their expertise as well. What we also got during this time in this program is it's just not about the funding per se, but it's also about the idea and the mentoring as well. And when we think of all these things, startup ecosystem has got I would say its own I would say advantages when we think of startup as a option. Because I understand, most of you coming from the dental background basically may be looking forward for the practice as well. But during practice as well, lot of times, even I have got a lot of clients who are coming from the medical or dental faculties, who come up with innovations basically, right? They come up with routine innovations to treat. They come up with newer products basically as well, which is part of their I would say profile as such. But then what happens to these innovations and products basically? Most of the times, unfortunately, the doctors probably they don't have time to make sure that the products are commercialized, or they are actually convert these ideas are basically converted into actual businesses as well. at the end of the day, those ideas or innovations, be it in lab or be it in practice, if they are not for the benefit of the society, probably those ideas have zero values as such. And for that sake, it is very essential, basically, like, that you need to ensure that those ideas or those innovations are also protected as well. What happens in a typical scenario is, like, you come up with an invention, you are least bothered about protecting that invention, and then someone else comes up with exactly same product, and he can actually reap the dividends or benefits of that particular product as such. And that's where you feel bad. Arey, ye idea to mera tha, why couldn't I do that actually? And if you look at the our education ecosystem, unfortunately our education ecosystem tells us probably more to study, I would say more to compete with each other, more to, I would say, maybe for medical practitioner, the education ecosystem tells us also about how to practice and all. But unfortunately our education ecosystem doesn't teach us about how to commercialize those ideas, basically how to come up with your own ventures as such. When I started 5 years back with my own venture, I didn't know simple difference between a partnership firm, LLP, private limited company, and public limited company. I am pretty confident that most of us may not know that difference yet. And I think this is not a rocket science. It's a very these are very easy things, but it is very essential for all of us to understand it first, and it is very essential to have the basic knowledge of that. And I think that's where the efforts by the IIC or the Impact Lecture Series by the institution's Innovation Council, which is a Ministry of HRD, what we also call as the Ministry of Education initiative, and this effort by MGN Dental College and Hospital would definitely be helpful for all the students as such. I'm going to speak more about the intellectual property rights part, more about how the startup ecosystem is connected with the intellectual property rights as well. That's my area of expertise. I'll also try to get some examples, live examples from the research in the dental domain specifically, because I've been informed that most of the participants are coming from the dental side as such. Let me share the screen. I request the organizer to allow me the sharing option. I have to share my slides. Okay, just to quickly confirm if you can see the slides. Can you see the slides, please?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. So intellectual property rights, as the word suggests, actually IPR has been a buzzword in last few years as we have got more innovation happening within the Indian ecosystem as such. But then, what is IP basically? And my I would say the memory of intellectual property rights. IPR is many a times synonymously used with the word patent actually, but patent is not the only type of IPR. We'll see different types of IPR in this particular session. But जब हम patent की बात करते हैं, तो the very first thing that reminds me is the movie Three Idiots, wherein we have this character played by Amir Khan as Funsuk Wangdu, and this guy has got lot of patent. Rather, precisely it is mentioned that the person has 400 plus patents in his name. Now, what do you mean by that actually? And then there is another character played by Chatur Ramlingam, and what Chatur Ramlingam does, he comes to meet Unsuk Wangdu. just to get license for the patent. Now, what is Funsuk Wangdo doing? Funsuk Wangdo is a scientist. He's a teacher come scientist who is coming up with his own inventions. He has protected those inventions basically, but then he is not interested in commercializing those inventions. The IP, intellectual property rights system, work on a principle. They are also called as negative rights. They don't give you the right to commercialize the product, but IP gives you the right to exclude everyone else except you to commercialize that invention basically. And that is where I would say the concept of IPR is very, I would say, important to understand as such. Because like so many a times many people come to us, sir, we have got a IP granted, now we wanted to commercialize it. No, if you have a IP granted, it has nothing to do with commercialization basically. Rather, it won't be IP that would be commercialized. It would be a product that would be commercialized. And if that product has got a market value, then only I would say the IP would be licensed out to others. Otherwise, your IP would be idle basically. Now, what are we speaking about? IP or intellectual property rights or patent? As the name suggests, IPR involves intellectual property and rights. Now, out of all these three terminologies, for sure, each one of us know what do you mean by property. Now, property is a term which is very common. Property is a term which we speak about the gold, the land, the plot, flat, the car, the iPhone, anything which has got a value associated with, right? Now, these are what we call as a tangible properties. Now, when we think of knowledge as a property, like how can a knowledge be a property, for example, or how can creativity be a property, basically? So imagine a painter who is doing a painting, or a writer who is writing an article, or I'm delivering this session basically, and maybe since I'm delivering the session, I'm creating business out of it. A painter is creating business out of that painting, or a writer is creating business out of that particular writing skills that person has got. What we call these skills as, we call that as the creative activities, or we also call it as intellectual activities basically. Now, when you're intellectual, anything related to your technology, be it dental technology, medical technology, any kind of technology basically, if it has got some kind of business potential, then it is called as intellectual property. Like, for example, I have got an iPhone. How would I prove that I own this iPhone? It is the receipt of purchase that would prove that iPhone, will I own that iPhone. Similarly, what about your ideas? What about those great products that you are developing through your research basically? Those creativities, those ideas, those technologies, or the artistic kind of work, when we have like business opportunity out of it, we have a potential for that. These are created and these are legally protected through something called as intellectual property rights. That's how the term IPR is set. Intellectual, which is for the technology, research, art, creativity, creation, any act of your intellectual property, which is more of having the business value, and the law, the rights is more about the legal rights. So who gives you these rights basically? Firstly, these are legal rights for your idea, for your intellectual creativity. The rights are given to you by the government of India. Just like you have your passport, you have your driving license, you have the patent, the copyright, the trademark, the industrial design, the geographical indication given to you for your activities, research activities, like by the government of India. Now, an interesting aspect about intellectual property rights, as I said, they create monopolies. That means if I have a patent, if Funsuk Wangdu has a patent, no one else except the permission of Funsuk Wangdu can use that particular IP or technology basically. I create a product, I innovate, but no one else is allowed to use that. That means that it is getting the monopolies are getting created basically. Are monopolies good for consumers? No, not at all. The monopolies are never good for the consumers. Monopolies are not good for economies as well. Then why are we creating monopolies actually through intellectual property rights? Now, the intent of intellectual property rights is not to create monopolies. Rather, the intent of intellectual property rights is to promote innovation. Because what happens if I come up with a new product or new technology or new invention basically? There are a lot of efforts as well as energy, resources, money as well involved in that. I come up with a great product and next day, very next day, someone else is copying it. Everyone, each one of you who is actually innovating would get demotivated. Agar मैं, like for example, in case of pharmaceuticals, a new drug requires almost 3 billion US dollars, anywhere between 2 to 20 to 25,000 crore rupees to come up with a new drug. And if next day the drugs are copied, how is the research company going to, I would say, get that money recovered, the investment recovered? And if we don't promote innovation, we won't have, no one would do research then. Everyone would stop research and we won't grow as I would say society as well. Now if we think of innovation or the intellectual property rights as a concept, one thing that also is, I would say, is so the kind of mobile handsets or phones we used 20 years back, let's say in 2002 3 basically, simple hand Nokia hand handsets, 3310, 3315, I remember, which simply had those calling features and SMS feature. Would someone use those kind of phones today? Probably not. Reason being, reason being that these are outdated now. We have grown. We need advanced features. We have come up with innovations. So as a society, if we have to grow, we need to innovate, and to promote this innovation, we have this wonderful concept called intellectual property rights. Now, when we think of intellectuals, the creativities, a painter is creative, a singer is creative, a writer is creative, as well as a scientist is also creative, a researcher is also creative. He can come up with his or her own ideas basically, right? The person can come up with own ideas basically. And so for example, can we say that a singer is better than a scientist, or a scientist is better than a writer? No, they are in their own domain, they are creative, they have excelled in their own domain basically, correct? Now, so we can't compare the different kind of creativities. We can't say that Gulzar Saab, who has written a wonderful song, is better than, I would say, Lata Mangeshkar, who sang really well. They are in their own domains basically, and we cannot compare the intellectual creativities. And that's the reason we have what different types of intellectual property rights. We'll see some of these intellectual property rights, but I'll focus on patents for just one reason, that for the medical industry or the dental industry, for the dental products or any activity, research activity, the most important type of intellectual property right is patents basically. Okay. Now, so when we think of these types of IP, I have listed here 6 types of IP rights. A patent, I'll discuss in detail, is for the activities which are for those industries which are research based. The medical industry, the pharmaceutical, the software industry, the automobile industry, the chemical industry, or biotech industry for that sake. These are research based. Telecom industry, electronics, all these are actually based on research, new inventions basically for the products. These are industrial property rights. Now, patents are applicable in those cases actually. We'll discuss it in detail, but before that, we'll go through quickly. I'll take you through these 4 or 5 different types of IP, and then in detail, we'll discuss about patents. Copyright, a wonderful type of IP right, which is more for literature, artistic, or software related work. Now, many a times, recently I got someone who has got his, I would say, poem written, and he came to me and he asked me, "Sir, मेरे को इसका patent करना है." Okay, what he meant is intellectual. He wants intellectual property rights for any artistic work, any literature work. The right type of IP is copyright actually. So anything, and where does copyright have actually a role to play basically? Anything that you are capturing, for example, a selfie or a photo or anything, like for example, now this live streaming of this particular session, who owns the copyright for this? There is a copyright getting, there is a original work actually that is getting generated through this. Actually, who owns the copyright for that actually? But then whether I should go for a copyright or not, whether I should go for a copyright for my I would say article written, honestly, most of us don't know that when we write an article in a book, or when we publish a book, or we write an article in the newspaper, or if we give an interview on a YouTube channel or the, let us say, television channel, the copyrights are with the book publisher. You just get a royalty. You would be an author, but the legal rights would always be with them actually. And let me tell you, that's the reason in most of the cases, the book publishers earn more money than the authors actually, and that's the harsh fact actually, because as an author we may not be aware of the copyrights associated with it as well. Now this is a wonderful type of IP, as I said, but this is more for the newspaper industry, the all the movie industry, all I would say the news channels, television channels, YouTube channels, the software, entire web based things actually are requiring copyright as a one type of intellectual property rights. Another wonderful type of IP is trademark. Trademark, any logo, symbol, or any, I would say, the name of a product basically, right? That can be protected under trademark. Where is the significance of trademark? When we say brand, we are very much cautious about the brands, the brand value. When we think of these brand values basically, it is about trademark. It can be as simple as this logo that you can see, or the name basically, or anything, I would say a tagline as well. That can also be form of a trademark basically. Anything, and let me tell you, trademark is one common thing which is applicable all across the industries, irrespective of where you are operating, what is the kind of job or business you are involved into. That's about trademark. Another type which we don't have, so all these are legal rights. That's the reason we have what specific laws protecting them. Now copyright and trademark registration is not mandatory. The moment you create it, you own it basically, but then it is very essential to register them if you want to enforce them tomorrow. What do you mean by that? That means if there is a litigation happening tomorrow, I am having a name of a brand basically, and if someone else uses it, how can I stop him? If I have a trademark registered in my name, I can very easily stop that party basically. But if it is not there, it is still possible to stop. It would be comparatively difficult actually. So wherever you feel there is a business value for a name, logo, maybe a tagline, anything, you go for a trademark for that. If you feel there is a value coming for a movie that you have shot, or I would say the any kind of selfie or a photo you have taken, it has got some business value associated. Go for the registration of it. Another type of IP is trade secret. We don't have a specific law, but trade secret has got significance in terms of, I would say, the education system, as well as if you are practicing. Trade secret simply means that a know-how that is secret. Actually, that means you don't collaborators, or even if you are sharing it with me as a patent agent. So for example, you have got a wonderful research invention and you are sharing it with someone. Before that, sign the so-called confidentiality disclosure or non-disclosure agreement. That is important because otherwise there is no legal protection for you, that when you are disclosing it to me, I am not using it. Unfortunately, in the Indian ecosystem, we have seen these kind of cases, and it is very essential for us to understand when we are working on a research project, be it a collaborative effort or within our institute as well. Many a times, or we are discussing it with a consultant, with a potential collaborator, let's say, you've got a great product, a big company is interested to commercialize your product. You don't have IP protected for that, and during your initial discussion itself you are disclosing the product. Now that company without license from you can get that details and commercialize it. They don't need your permission to do that because you have already disclosed it. But before disclosing, ensure that you are having a confidentiality disclosure or non-disclosure agreement with them. It can be a very simple agreement, maybe on a even 100 rupees stamp paper, bond paper, that is sufficient. Another important type of IP is industrial design. Design is something which is for the external outlook of a product. Like for example, the shape of this bottle, shape of any product that you are preparing. Where is this applicable basically? It is applicable in those industries wherein the shape is very important for selling the product, like, or the outlook of the product is very important and not the content of the product. So for example, jewelry, the clothes, the fashion industry, any product, let us say you are coming up with any product which is essential for dental surgery, for a which has a specific shape, or I would say which is having a specific external outlook, you can protect it under design. And if you protect it, no one else without your permission can actually use that. This is the significance of industrial design. Another important IP, which may not be directly connected to our industry, is geographical indication, which simply means any product which has anything to do with a certain location, and uska jo quality hai, it is dependent on the that location. For example, it can be a soil, it can be a climate at that location, or it can also be the local skill set or the manufacturing skill set as such, so that's where we have this, we have this concept called geographical indication. Most of the times it is applicable in agriculture product, handicraft, as well as the food products as such. Now, these are GI are community rights. Basically, you can't have the rights individually. Some of the examples are, we have these products like Mahabaleshwar strawberry. It is known for with the name Mahabaleshwar, the location, the climatic conditions and the soil are responsible for the quality. We have Nagpur oranges, or we have the Alfonso mangoes from Devgarh or Konkan basically, which we can say as, or even for those of you can connect to Paithani saris is another wonderful example, I would say. And we have global examples or national examples as well. Kashmiri Pashmina hai, Darjeeling tea hai. These are all GI basically. Now the rights are with the local communities there. Let us speak about the most important type of IP that is for us is patent actually. And as I said, patent is something which is for research based industries. Like whatever inventions you do in the scientific community, that is more important. scientific, because there is a condition, utility, use of the product, be it a product or a process. For that, we have a wonderful type of IP called as patent. I'll discuss more examples from the dental industry for patent, but before that, I have a message to be given to each one of you. A same product, a toothpaste, can have all types of IP. Actually, that is possible. So it is very essential to understand the differences between different types of IP. Beyond that, it is very essential to understand what are the right type of IP for your invention or for your creativity. Basically, a toothpaste can have all types of IP. How? I'll tell you. The shape of the tube can be protected under industrial design. The name brand can be protected under trademark. The leaflet or the PI can be protected under the if it is a prescribed product, prescription product, prescribing information can be protected under copyright per se. If any one ingredient, let us say any one ingredient that you are using in that toothpaste content is from a specific location, in that case it can be protected under GI. And the best part, if the product itself is new, the content, the total product per se, or the process for preparing product is new, in that case it can be protected under patent. So the take home message herein is we can protect our product through different types of intellectual property rights, and some part of this may also be trade secret. A wonderful example of trade secret is Coca-Cola formula, or the the KFC spices. No one knows what's there in the KFC spices that gives it its specific taste, or no one knows what's there in the Coca-Cola formula. Actually, the rights are with the companies only. They have kept it as a trade secret. But honestly speaking, in a country like India, keeping something as a trade secret is really very difficult. So it is always better to go for other types of IP to protect. But again, the take home message, your product can have multiple types of IP. What is essential for you as a researcher, as a student, as a practitioner? What is the right type of IP for your invention or for your research and science? Let me discuss about patents now. And we have so many examples actually. When I put the word dental on the patent office website, I have so many examples like this, wherein it may be related to dental implants, dental instrument. It can be a dental chair basically. Then it can be a polyherbal chewing gum for dental care. Anything that is used. Basically, any instrument, any implant, any product, anything that is used in the domain which is new, novel. That's the first condition. Second thing is it is not predictable, basically what we call as non-obviousness, unpredictability of the art. Basically, whatever invention you come up with, if it is new, non-obvious, and has an industrial application, let me tell you, whatever product or processes that you have basically has the utility, industrial utility or industrial applicability. Now, what do you mean by utility or industrial applicability? In simple terms, the product is either prepared by the industry, any industry for that sake, or it is prepared for the industry or the individual. In that case, that is considered as a industrial utility. All these products have got the industrial utility. Industrial utility kahan pe nahi hai? For example, you just come up with a plan. I'll do this A, B, C, D, X, Y, Z. And it is not a product basically. That plan is not, it's basically the way we operate. That's not gonna be patented because it doesn't have the industrial applicability. Another set of examples I have: pharmaceutical compositions for dental treatment. I have protected so many products for, I would say the dental, I would say dental uses. It may be for the pharma product. It may be some kind of implants, basically. It may be some kind of small instruments as well, or I would call as like, which are used for, I would say the dental reasons. We have also protected a lot of toothpaste related product as well. Anything that is in the broader domain and which has actually got novelty, industrial utility, and the non-obviousness. Let me tell you one thing. What master's thesis you do, or the PhD or research thesis you do, everything, if it has a if it has a novelty, non-obviousness, and industrial applicability, can be protected under patent. This is very important, because because what happens, we are doing research, we are putting so much of efforts basically, but then what is happening with that research later, after the masters or PhD? They are just sitting idle in some corners of your library, or maybe now the e-thesis, electronic thesis, which is not giving any value coming out of it basically. And no one knows where is the value associated with that, probably. Because the kind of disruptions we are seeing, what product, what technology may have a value tomorrow, we don't know. So it is very essential that you protect them through patent if you foresee actually the commercial value coming out of it. Now, one important aspect that is about the patenting is also, like, unfortunately, we don't have I would say, the kind of expertise, because patent is more of, as you can see here, it's a more of techno legal document. You are a technology expert, as a dentist. If you're doing masters research, or if you're a faculty, you are an expert in the domain. You're not a law expert. Writing a research article is more of a technical document. Writing a patent, drafting a patent is more of a techno legal document. That's where the expertise comes in, from someone who has an understanding both of a law, as well as, I would say, the both of a law as well as your technology. It is very essential. I can take projects for patent filing. I belong to pharma. I take a lot of projects from pharma, life sciences. I would say the biotech, the I would say the Ayurveda, or any nutraceutical industry for that sake, simple mechanical invention, dental inventions, basically medical invention. But if I don't understand the technology, I won't be in a position to draft the patent. It is very essential, जो बंदा आपका पेटेंट ड्राफ्ट कर रहा है, those who are protecting their inventions, they need to ensure that the person who is drafting understands your technology first. That person should be from your, if he is a dentist, that's the best thing I would say. If not, he or she should be in a position to understand your product, technology, why is it used, what is the novelty, what are the technical features, where is the inventive step, and how to draft that. So that's how the patent system actually works. As I mentioned, all your theses which are for the masters or PhD can be converted into patents, or can have some kind of patent opportunity. We work with a lot of universities and academic institutions, wherein all the theses come to us, we evaluate the patentability for that, and thereafter we go for patent filing. Actually, this is very important. And I think when we have these kind of programs, the IIC programs about the understanding of the intellectual property rights and all, therein it is very essential for us to understand that how can we actually effectively protect. One good thing that has happened in last, I would say, September 2021, is that the cost of patent filing has been reduced by 80% for the academic institution, and for sure you can get benefited out of it. 80% cost reduction has been done by the government of India. As well as, if you are a registered MSME, if you have that Udyog Aadhar authorization, if you are a startup, then let me tell you, reimbursed by government of India. There are certain schemes through which all these patents which are filed by MSMEs and startups, the costing for that can be very easily reimbursed as such. Now when we decide, like, for example, we discussed about a lot of inventions that are happening at, like, experiments that you are doing, coming up with something new. Now in that case we decide the patent filing basically. But then I'll tell you what, although we speak about Three Idiots movie, about Funsuk Mangdu, or even Marathi मध्ये एक मूवी होती दे धक्का नावाची, ज्यामध्ये Makranda Naspure, he invents something, and his brother-in-law actually loses that part. It is related to automobile industry actually, right? At the end of the movie, it is shown that Makaranda Naspure's friend comes to him and tells him, "अरे तू काळजी करू नको, तुझ्या नावाचं मी पेटंट घेतलेलं आहे, and no one else can use your invention now." There are a lot of misconceptions about patent. It is very essential for us because it's this is something, if you understand, then you can do justice to your thesis, as well as I would say you can get your inventions protected as well. It's just not going to help you as an individual, I'll tell you. It is going to help the innovation ecosystem, as well as it is going to help your institute as well, MGM, Institute of Dental Sciences as well. Patent filing. What are the misconceptions? One important misconception. What I have done is I have identified those questions that have been asked to me so many times, and I'm trying to answer those questions right here so that all these misconceptions are resolved here. When should I file a patent application? The first important thing, if you have an idea which is executable, that then you, the moment you have that idea, if you feel like this product can be used for dental caries, you can file a patent for that. If it is novel, you don't need to prepare that product, characterize that, and thereafter file the patent, because we have the first to file system. The one who files first would get that patent. Very important that we would we would file it ASAP. That's what I tell. As early as possible you file that patent. Second question, why should I file patent application? I have a lot of answers to this, but speaking at an academic institution, for sure, probably it's gonna help your accreditations or rankings firstly. Beyond that, as an individual, it would add a lot of value to your credibility if you are looking forward to research outside India, if you are looking forward to some kind of your own business venture, if you are looking for some kind of funding as well. But beyond that, as I said, the intent of the IP system or patent system is to block everyone else except you to use your invention. If you feel मेरे invention में potential है, मैं इसको commercialize करूंगा, protect it so that, and let me tell you, the exclusivity of that product is a big thing in the market. What data do I need to file a patent application? As I said, no data is required to file a provisional application, but you have 1 year time to execute, come up with the data to actually file a complete application. At the time of provisional filing, if you just give me an idea, we can still file a patent out of it. Shall I take help of patent agent for filing? There are two reasons you should take a help of a patent agent. I'm a patent agent actually. Because you are a technical expert. You are a technical expert. You know your area very well. You have done thorough literature survey. You know you are working in that area since last 15-20 years. You are a technical expert. You're not a legal expert. And patent is a techno-legal document as such. So it is very essential that if you want to protect it, seek a help of a patent agent. But the patent office doesn't make it mandatory to take help of patent agent. You can file on your own actually. That is possible. But Since you are a technical expert, a patent agent would understand your invention as well as the law. This is first reason, and of course, second reason with some bias, I would say it's my business. Give me some business as well for patent drafting and filing. Actually, now the next thing: can I publish my research before or after patent filing? Before patent filing, absolute no. You cannot publish your research because the concept of novelty is such that इन्वेंशन किसने डिस्क्लोज किया है, रिसर्च पेपर में, न्यूज़पेपर आर्टिकल में, फेसबुक पे, लिंक्डइन पे, किसी यूट्यूब वीडियो में, it kills the novelty for you guys. You should not publish your research before patent filing. You can publish after patent filing, that is allowed. Now, can I commercialize my invention after patent filing? Absolutely yes. But as I said, commercialization has nothing to do with patent. It's a negative right basically. But then if you commercialize before patent filing, again, it acts as a prior art for you. There would be no novelty. The novelty is calculated till the day you file a patent. If you file patent on 24th June, anything that is available in the public domain till 23rd June is considered as a prior art and kills the novelty for you. How much is the cost for patent filing? As I said, officially the fees has been reduced by 80% by the patent office, but then there are other charges. I would say most of the patent professional, patent agents, based on their expertise, their experience, as well as I would say the inputs and the time required for invention to understand and drafting, they would charge you accordingly. Can I file patent application without telling my institute or research guide? These things happen. A lot of students come to me. In fact, I had a case a few years back. A student from Nasik approached me. She mentioned me. She told me, sir, mujhe patent file karna hai. Absolutely fine. You share the invention, sign the CVA, send me the list of inventors and we'll file it. Sir, but mera ek condition hai. I said, what? Can I file? I don't want to include my guide's name. Yes, this happens in India, right? Now, can the student do that? Yes. There is no, if there is no IPR policy at academic institution level, then your students can do that. Your faculties can do that. What happens if they leave the institute tomorrow? The institute, if doesn't have a IPR policy in place, in that case, it is very difficult to get those rights in the name of institute, because at the end of the day, remember that you are an employee. During the employment, as a part of employment, you are actually putting contribution, innovating basically. Now, how does it actually work? Because this is a very, I would say, tricky area. A scientist or a professor would say, no, this is my property. I have got this invention, right? Now, in most of the IPR policies, we have a specific percentage of value of the patent that is given, or the royalty given to the inventors or the individuals as well. This is also included in the IPR policy of the organization. Now, another interesting thing, can someone else file patent application of my invention? मुझे बिना बताए, सेम लैब में काम कर रहे हैं 4 बच्चे, सेम सिस्टम हैंडल कर रहे हैं, सारे डेटा का एक्सेस है. What can be done now? Can someone else file patent application? Patent office doesn't have any scrutiny at the time of filing. But then if you have an issue, someone else files, you have to go legally to stop that. But to avoid that, it is recommended that you have an IPR policy in place of your institute or university. Answer. ये तो हुआ filing का, but filing itself is not everything actually. There is a long process of anywhere between 7 months to 5 years, 10 years, during which your patent filing से grant तक जाता है. The application usually gets published after 18 months. But remember that अगर आपका application publish हुआ है, it is a normal automatic process. It is not evaluated before publication. How much time does it take to get the patent granted? we have got at, like, in a very so 6 months se pehle patent office is not allowed to grant in India. We have got it in 6 months, 3 weeks, and maximum 6 to 7, but on an average 3 to 4 years is the time actually. Remember that publication of application doesn't assure grant of patent. What do you mean by that? Publication के बाद एग्जाम होता है, उसके बाद ग्रांट या रिजेक्शन होता है. What is the cost after filing patent filing till grant? I think I'm getting recorded here, and I can't disclose the exact numbers, I would say, but let me tell you in a simple language. Filing से grant तक का जो भी costing है, it may not be beyond the cost of an iPhone 12. Okay, it may not be beyond the cost of an iPhone 12. Can I commercialize the invention after grant? Absolutely yes, you can do that. Would I be funsuk Wangdu once patent gets granted? Many people come to me. सर मेरे पास पेटेंट है, इसका ना मैं कमर्शियलाइज करना चाहता हूँ. कोई पार्टी है जो इसको कमर्शियलाइज करेगा? रिमेंबर दैट आपका पेटेंट का कमर्शियलाइजेशन नहीं होने वाला. Is protected by patent, and this product also has a commercial value. Then only your patent would have a value out of for that. Otherwise, that patent doesn't have any value associated with it on its own. आपको कितने भी पेटेंट ग्रांट हुए तो कोई भी आपके पास $1 million का चेक लेके नहीं आने वाला है. The concept is the product should have business value and the product is protected by patent. Then the patent has a value. If this product doesn't have a value, but business value, but then you have got a great patent attorney, let's say, you can get the patent very easily, but there is no business value. The patent have no value per se in that context. Now, another question, what is the difference between a design and patent? I think we have discussed this in detail already. Now, for your products, the dental products, you can go for a design which is very cheap to protect. Honestly speaking, means the costing is not less than 10,000, and it gets granted within, I would say, sometimes 2 months or 2 years time. 2 months to 2 years is max. The cost is just 10,000 for design actually. But remember, design is for external outlook of the product. Now, what is important as a student or as a researcher is not only the protection of the IP, but also respecting the third party IP. आप अगर इनोवेट नहीं कर रहे हो तो ensure that you are not using the third party IP. किसी और का पेटेंट नहीं यूज कर रहे हो ना आप. Not in research, while commercializing. That is important actually as far as the IP is concerned. And this is very important, especially for student as such. If you are going into your own startup, your own businesses, your own entrepreneurship kind of ventures basically tomorrow. Now, when we think of all these product, I would say, yeah, I have done research, I've got a product which is wonderful, I've got a commercialization potential for it as well. Then comes the concept, what we call as startup. What is a startup now? You have innovated, you have invented, आपने thesis किया, आपके पास बहुत अच्छा product है. Now comes the commercialization part, and that's what we call as a business venture basically. Now business venture means a company start करना है आपको, एक कोई project है, but when do we call it as a startup? When do we call it as a startup compared to a normal business basically? And if we understand that, I think that would be the take-home message for this particular session as such. If you look at traditional businesses, okay, and the startups are businesses basically. The only difference is that they are attractive, having the attractive business model. What do you mean by attractive business model? So for example, if I have a shop locally, let us say a restaurant locally, then only people who are within the periphery of, let's say, 3 to 5 kilometers can get benefited. They are my consumers. But if I have a, let us say, e-commerce website, then probably I have the entire Maharashtra, entire India, or maybe the globe as my customer. The business model is very attractive in case of startups. Remember that the startups are the ones which have got innovative business model. That's the reason. If you look at the last row, the startups generate IP. The startups have innovation happening, but traditional businesses are not having this. Now, another major difference between a startup and a traditional business is that the traditional businesses have very low scalability and slow growth basically. But if you look at startups, they are very high, fast-paced growth and highly scalable. Now, what do you mean by that? 10-15 साल पहले बायजूस का नाम किसी ने नहीं सुना था. Most of us know Byju's now. Many of you would have used for your studies as well. The kind of 10-15 years mein, Byju's has grown to a level wherein they have sponsored the Indian cricket team. And look at the way normal businesses, traditional businesses. I know a lot of pharma companies, jinka started 30 years back, but they have turned to a level of almost 100 CR now. 100 crore ka revenue aa raha hai unka bas. But Byju's in 10 years, so the scalability, the growth is really very fast in case of startups. The one important aspect about startup is that they are technology driven, but it is not mandatory that they are technology driven. But most of them use technologies basically. The traditional businesses use less of technology, I would say. The what is scalable or has a fast growth also fails very fastly. The failure rates are really very high basically in case of startups. If you have seen actually if you follow the startup ecosystem, startups have a lot of failures actually for XYZ reasons. But then unfortunately, as in our education ecosystem, we don't have any kind of, I would say, education about how to avoid these failures as well. Unfortunately, we don't have anything related to entrepreneurship as well. That is very important to understand, right? One major difference in traditional businesses is that they're family owned businesses. एक जनरेशन से नेक्स्ट जनरेशन, उससे नेक्स्ट जनरेशन को वो ट्रांसफर हो रहा है. In case of startups, there are exit deals. मतलब I am a co-founder of a startup. 5 years I'm exiting that. I just have 3 or 5% of it left. Everything else I have sold. And that's how so startup always have the exit strategy. In case of startups, there are a lot of funding opportunities that are available. May it be as simple as if you go to State Bank or any government bank, you can get 10 lakh ka mudra loan at a very, I would say, less interest rate, which is available for the businesses. You have these angel investors, the incubators. I think we had a session by Sagar in the morning, who is from the incubator basically. We have a lot of opportunities, new age opportunities for startup funding. Although at an idea stage, we have seen it in Shark Tank India. 20-22 साल के बच्चे, they are coming up with some product. It's not commercialized yet. It's still in a prototype stage. Someone is funding it. There are immense opportunities available. Traditional businesses ke liye, you have to go through the debt or loan option, and getting that debt or loan is really very difficult at times as such. If you don't have any assets basically. That's how the startup ecosystem is different from traditional. Although I'm calling this as a pharma startups, I have got a lot of examples from the healthcare domain or life sciences domain for the, I would say, the startups answer. Just to give you an idea key, how they are innovating, what kind of startups in the healthcare domain we have. Of course, whether it's whether online pharmacy is right or wrong, we are not going to that debate, but we have a lot of examples like 1mg.com actually, wherein we have this online pharmacy as well as doctor consultations. I have this one of my friends who is the co-founder of WonderRx. He is the one, this firm startup basically is digitizing the prescriptions. One of the wonderful concepts, I would say. Why is it so? Now, why is it interesting? Now, when we think of digitizing the prescriptions, the major issue is that the doctors don't want to change the habit of writing on a prescription pad with a pen. And that's the biggest concern for digitization. And what these guys have done is they have not, they have used us, they are providing these papers and a pen and a tab basically. There is no change in the doctor's behavior. जैसे आप लिखते थे उसी प्रिस्क्रिप्शन पैड पे लिखना है, automatically it is digitized and you have access to it. A wonderful concept which uses technology along with, I would say your requirement, because during COVID time the digital data, digitization of the data trends, the data was the one based on which we, the doctors, the entire medical community was doing the prescription, be it steroids, be it remdesivir, be it trastuzumab, or be it plasma therapy for that, right? This is a platform which is giving you automated digitization of the prescriptions at the ground level. Imagine the kind of value that is getting associated with that data later. Another example, I think each one of us knows it, Practo as a platform which connects patients and the healthcare providers. This is very useful in case of third tier or second. I'm sitting right now in a small town in Maharashtra called Latur. Of course, we have the tertiary kind of hospitals as well here, but this is something which would help small towns or villages as well to get right kind of medical advice on time. Actually, that's so the way we book the food via Swiggy, Zomato, the way we book the cab through Ola, Uber, or the way we book, I would say, any we purchase any goods from Amazon, Flipkart. We have this wonderful concept, Blood Sure, which is online, I would say, platform for connecting the blood platelets donors to those in who are in need of it in the real time. Blood banks have these databases. Someone thought of digitizing it actually, and of course, Blood Sure is not available all across India actually, but a wonderful concept. Okay. An idea executed really well. In that idea, some kind of innovation is happening there, and they are also protecting it through. Another very important, I would say, area of innovation in the healthcare industry is the diagnostic space. Beto is a device and which can be used with smartphone to detect your blood sugar level actually. And imagine during the COVID pandemic, for the elderlies, the differently abled people and all, for them, having these services at home would be really great asset as or healthcare professional. We know that cancer, if detected at a very early stage, can for sure be cured or treated. Niramai comes up with this wonderful concept of using artificial intelligence and thermal analytics to detect breast cancer at a very early stage. It makes it very easy to screen breast cancer because this technology is mobile basically. A wonderful concept, I would say. So whatever domain, we need to understand that all these startups are working in multidisciplinary kind of research, any kind of research. What is the need basically? Myudan, another Navi Mumbai based startup which was incubated at SIBA, where Sagar is currently associated with. Myudan, another wonderful, which provides assistance to the so you have that. Why can't we book an ambulance just like the way we can book Ola or Uber? Why can't we book a wheelchair or a nurse, or through something which is done through which can be done through Myudan? Beyond that, they are moved to a level jahan pe they are coming up with a service which gives you an idea of which are those locations which are wheelchair friendly actually, be it a multiplex, a mall, or a restaurant basically. A wonderful concept they are coming up with. Now, all these things, what I want to discuss here or share here as a take-home message is that there are a lot of opportunities basically, and we can get benefited through the innovation basically, or I would say we can innovate, come up with your own ideas as well. We can protect them legally. It's just not about the protection, but about the commercial. There are ample opportunities actually, and the entire world, I would say, you can actually use as a platform for your innovation or for your research to commercialize your products or any kind of idea basically. So this is what my, and especially for the young generation, where who can't actually many of my medical professionals, the doctors and all, they are into more into the businesses, startups or entrepreneurship rather than practicing. If any one of you is willing to do that, I think this is a great opportunity. We are in the right we are at the in the right time zone, I would say, because everyone, government is promoting it. The kind of ecosystem we have got is getting improved, and I think this is why we also have this kind of session at a dental college. So I must take this opportunity to thank the institute, the management. I've been associated with MGM Group. Actually, I've conducted the sessions at MGM Medical College, both in Aurangabad as well as Navi Mumbai. And I would be more than happy to answer if there are any specific questions for me. Once again, thank you so much, the management, the IIC coordinator, all the respected faculty members, the students, researchers for bearing me for almost more than 1 hour. Thank you, everyone.
I hope, sir, you are able to hear all the applause.
Yes, sir.
I, I thank you, sir, for your insightful and very informative session. I thank all the audience for the patient listening, and we would be taking questions if any.
Thank you, sir, for the wonderful session. Can I ask a question, sir, regarding non-obviousness of a patent? How
Yeah,
it is
absolutely.
different? How it is different from the novelty?
I think that's a wonderful question, because whatever business we generate, I would say, as a patent agent, it is not more about the novelty but the obviousness part. Because you are an expert, you do literature survey basically very easily. Now what happens is, so novel, whether आपका invention novel है कि नहीं. But beyond that, it is important to understand the non-obviousness, what we also call as predictability or unpredictability of art. Since we have 1 minute time, I'll tell you analogy which would give you more clarity about, I would say, obviousness. I have a daughter who is just 2.5 years old. जब वो 7 महीने की थी ना, 7-8 महीने की, she started eating for the first time. For us, it was a novel thing कि Saisha, her name, Saisha has started eating actually. On the first day, she had a small piece of, I would say, apple, actually, छोटा सा piece, apple खाया उसने. We were very happy actually. It was novel. Now, Saisha, is very smart like her mom. What she did is, next day, she ate a piece of pineapple. Now, the question herein is, Saisha eating a piece of pineapple, is it novel? Yes, it is novel, क्योंकि उसने उससे पहले कभी नहीं खाया था. But is it predictable? A child who can eat an apple can very easily eat a pineapple as well, right? Now that is the predictability of art. What we do is, we are replacing one part with other. We are replacing one component with other, which is predictable basically. That way it becomes obvious. Of course, I'm just giving you an analogy. Not like her father. On third day, what she did is, she ate a small bite of ice cream. Now, what happens? A child who can eat an apple, like Saisha had never eaten ice cream basically. So it's a novel for sure, we know. Third day, जब उसने ice cream खाया, is it predictable? Most of us would say it is predictable. Like, a child who can eat an apple, a piece of apple, a piece of pineapple, can easily eat a piece of ice cream as well, or a bite of ice cream as well, right? Now that's what the controller, the examiner would say at patent office. But as a patent agent or attorney, I would say, listen, the ice cream is not a fruit. A child who can eat a fruit, an apple or pineapple, cannot necessarily eat an ice cream. The examiner is smarter. Examiner would say ice cream has a fruit flavor. Now, I think that's where the real, I would say, challenge for a patent agent, how to distinguish your invention, basically make it unpredictable. I would say that ice cream is not a fruit, although it has a fruit flavor, but ice cream per se is something which has got different temperature. Actually, it's in the cold stage. Probably the feel is different compared to your fruit, basically. So that's how the non-obviousness is proven. Non-obviousness per se, or obviousness per se, is the predictability of the art, basically. Your invention may be new. Like, for example, there is a dental product which with a new component. It is new for sure, novel hair, but replacing X with Y, is it predictable based on some other document? If it is, then it is obvious, basically. I hope at least partly I have answered this question, because honestly, obviousness is a subject wherein I can go on speaking for entire day actually, because that's something which is very more of a legal and rather than the technical thing. Does that make sense?
Thank you, sir. That's all actually. No more questions. If there are any questions, we'll forward it to you.
Sure.
I now request Asmit Chawla to deliver the vote of thanks.
Under the guidance and support of MIC and AICTE, we were able to conduct the impact lectures today. Today was the session 1 conducted by Mr. Sagar Chandni and Mr. Vijay Shivpuri. We would like to facilitate Mr. Vijay Shivpuri with the e-certificate. Your lecture has guided us, sir, and we hope that all of us will take home this message of patents and include us in our researches. I would also like to thank our Dean Ma'am for giving us the permission to arrange this session, Dr. Niharika Ma'am, Dr. Rashmi Ma'am, and Dr. Padma Kasar for organizing this impact session for us. A special thanks to our technical team, Sanket sir, for helping us to conduct the session smoothly as possible. Lastly, I would like to thank all of you present here for being patient with us and attending this session.
Thank you, everyone. You can exit the session, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.